everybody, this is Lauren from my counselor here at Plexus, and for today's video workshop, we are going to be talking about the differences between the SAT versus the ACT. Just so you know that because this is a video, you are welcome to go through this at your own pace. Feel free to pause, rewind, or fast forward, and feel free to take notes on your device or in a notebook, but always know that you can always come back to this video and rewatch it whenever you need it. So before we actually break down the differences between the two exams, there are some important notes to keep in mind. And that first one is that only one test is required. And you want to pick the exam that works in your favor. So most colleges in the United States require you to take either the SAT or the ACT, and you must submit scores for one of those exams in your college application. There is no college that will require you to take both. It is up to you which one you want to submit your scores for. It's up to you if you would only take the ACT or if you would only take the SAT. But just know that you have the option to take both, but that's not required. There are some states that require you to take a particular exam in order to graduate from high school. So there are some requirements in that state where they require students to either take the ACT or the SAT. This is to encourage, the college-going culture at their school. And you watching this may already know this, whether it's a requirement or not. But if you don't, then you should double check with your counselor or someone at your school who knows if you do have to take one of these exams in order for you to graduate. Another thing to keep in mind is that you may take the exam as many times as you like, although it is recommended that you don't take either exam more than 3 times. After you take the exam more than 3 times, then you are likely to see, or you aren't likely to see a big jump in your scores. At that point, then if you take it a 4th time, it will probably be very similar to the scores that you received the previous 3 times. But again, you can take the ACT, you can take the SAT as well, but you don't have to submit your scores for both. You may choose which set of scores to submit to the colleges. However, some colleges require or recommend that you submit all of your scores. Be sure that you review the policy in terms of reporting your scores to each of the colleges that you plan to submit an application for. And even if a college requires that you send in all of your scores, they will consider your highest score when they review your application. All right, we're going to start first with the SAT. So the SAT is an evidence-based reading and writing, and all of those sections on the test are multiple choice, and sometimes the math part is multiple choice, but also where you have to write in your answer. So think of the SAT in 3 main sections, which is reading, math, and then writing and language, which you can also consider English, and you can also consider reading English. So the 2 main subjects are math and English. You'll see here in the other column of the table what the actual content you're going to be tested on. And let's look at that first section, which is reading, which is command of evidence, words in context, and analysis in history or social studies, but also science. So the reading that you may get may not be literature or from your English class that you're familiar with, but you may have to read a passage that has to relate to history or has to relate to science. But what you're actually tested on are your analysis skills and your command of evidence. So this section is 65 minutes. Then in the next section is math. So do take note that there are 2 sections in math, and they're different because one of the sections you are allowed to use a calculator, whereas in the other section, you aren't allowed to use a calculator at all. The content of the math is algebra, problem solving, data analysis, and that section is 80 minutes long. And then lastly, your other English section specifically focuses on writing and language. And so again, it's command of evidence, words in context, your ability to analyze passages in histories or social studies or science, your expression of ideas, and standard English conventions. And that has to deal with grammar. And then this section is 35 minutes long, and there is another section of the test, but it's optional, and that is a 150-minute essay. Keep in mind that even though that this section of the test and writing an essay is optional, there are some schools and colleges that encourage you to take that section and to do the essay portion of the test. In total, the SAT is 3 hours long, and that's without the essay. Of course, if you did that part of the test, then it would be 3 hours and 50 minutes long. All right, the other test is the ACT, and there are 4 main sections of the ACT. There is an optional essay, just like the SAT, and unlike the SAT, the ACT, all of the sections are multiple choice. So in English, you are tested on your usage and mechanics and your rhetorical skills, and that is 45 minutes long. In the math section, you are allowed to use a calculator throughout the entire thing, but keep in mind that the SAT does provide you with formulas that you may or may not have memorized, whereas the ACT, you aren't provided with those formulas. But you are tested in algebra and geometry and trigonometry. And so you may think that the SAT is a better fit for you based on the kind of math, especially if you are not strong in trigonometry. And that section is 60 minutes long. Then the reading section, you will also be reading passages on social studies, natural science, literature, and those skills are tested in a 35-minute period. And then your science section, which is different from the SAT, because the SAT does not have a science portion of the test. This is where you are tested in natural sciences and your skills in interpretation, analysis, evaluation, reasoning, and problem solving. And this section of the test is 35 minutes long. Just like the SAT, the writing portion is optional, and it is a 30-minute essay. Again, you want to look at each school that you're applying for and understand if they encourage that section of the test. And if it is encouraged or if it is required, right, then you do want to add that part while you're taking the SAT or the ACT. The ACT is just a little shorter, not by much, but it is 2 hours and 55 minutes. And then, of course, if it includes the essay, then it's 3 hours and 25 minutes long. All right, so knowing the content and how much time you're given, this is how long each test is going to be and how many questions there are. So with the SAT, you have 52 questions in reading, 44 questions in writing and language, 20 questions math without a calculator, and then 38 math questions where you can use a calculator. The essay is optional. Then the ACT, there are 75 English questions, 60 math questions. There you can use your calculator for all of those questions. 40 reading questions, 40 science questions, and then again, your 1 30-minute optional essay for the ACT. When you take either test, you want to know how, what the range of the scores are and how low you can get or how high and what's a perfect score for each exam. So for the SAT, the lowest score possible is a 400 and a perfect score is a 1600. For the ACT, the lowest score you can get is a 1 and the highest score you can get is a 36. For the SAT, what they do is they use a scale of 200 to 800 and they combine that for a total score. So each section is scored and then combine it to get your total. In the ACT, they take the average of your 4 scores. So each section is graded separately and then they average those 4. So the essay on the ACT is done separately and graded separately, and it doesn't count as part of your 400 to 1600 total. The ACT also uses a separate scale or grading scale, and that total does not influence your total of 1 through 36. It's really important that you know for the SAT that at this time, there's no penalty for guessing. Before, if you left a question blank or if you answered wrong, then that did affect your score in a negative way. But now there is no penalty. So you receive 1 point for items that you answer correctly, and then 0 points for incorrect answers or if you leave the response blank. The ACT, there is also no penalty for wrong answers. So if you're interested in registering for either of the exams, or if you need more information, or if you need more help in preparing for the test, and that can include a sample test or tips, then I suggest these 2 websites. For SAT, it's collegeboard.com, and then for the ACT, it's act.org. The prices for the exams are listed here. With writing means that includes the optional essay. If you don't take the essay, then it is a little bit cheaper. But please know that if you aren't able to pay for the exam, that shouldn't deter you from applying to college, even though you must take the exam in order to apply. And so there are fee waivers available if you qualify. You can also check out the website to know how to go about that process, but there are many opportunities, especially if you need it, in order to take the exam. All right, so this would be a good time to pause the video and maybe you can number on a piece of paper or on your phone, but there are 10 questions. And if you are open and want to know which exam may be a better fit for you, especially if you're still unsure, then this may be a good indicator of which one you should take. So the statements here, and you're going to either agree or disagree with the following 10 statements. 1, I struggle with geometry and trigonometry. 2, I'm good at solving math problems without a calculator. 3, science is not my forte. 4, it's easier for me to analyze something than to explain my opinion. 5, I normally do well on math tests. 6, I can't recall math formulas easily. 7, I like coming up with my own answers for math questions. 8, tight time constraints stress me out. 9, I can easily find evidence to back up my answers. And 10, chronologically arranged questions are easier to follow. And chronologically arranged means that, easier questions are first, and then as you progress through the questions become more and more challenging. If you agreed with most or all of the above statements, then the SAT is probably what you're looking for. You'll have more time for each question with the way that the exam is structured, and you won't have to worry about a science section or a lot of geometry questions. If you mostly disagree, then the ACT is probably the better exam for you, especially because the math portion of that exam is all multiple choice. And so you never have to worry about putting in your own answer and doubting that answer. And there's also, if you have strengths in science, then the ACT is better for you. If you equally agree and disagree, then either test will work. Something to keep in mind is that maybe if you aren't able to take both of the exams, then take a practice exam of both and then see which one you are more comfortable with or which one you are more confident in. And then that will hopefully tell you and give you a better idea which one is better. So some takeaways from this video that are really important is that you want to be informed. We all know that these exams are required in order for you to apply to college, and you must submit scores for one of these exams. And so knowing the structure and the content of the exam will help you to know which is the better test for you. Also, know that it's your choice. They want you to do well, and I know that you want to do well. So understand which one is the better fit for you and which one you know you'll do better in. So it's up to you. You don't have to take both, and you only have to submit scores for one of the exams. And again, the exam is accessible for everyone. So if that, for some reason, you aren't able to afford the exam, there are ways to go around it and ways to obtain a fee waiver so that you can take the exam and include that in your college application. All right, lastly, if you got to the end of the video, then we appreciate that, and hopefully you have the Plexus app downloaded onto your phone. But if not, please do. If you have any questions about the content of this workshop or would like more information about the SAT or the ACT, there are plenty of resources on Plexus, but also you are free to reach out to my counselor and ask any of the specific questions that you have about SAT or the ACT. And then lastly, if you haven't already, please rate and review our app in Google Play or in the App Store. We appreciate your feedback, whether that's positive or constructive, and we're always hoping to make Plexus a better experience for you as you are selecting and applying to college.